Houston, our instruments are showing that we have a incoming message from deep space. Repeat, Houston, we have an incoming message from deep space. Houston, we'll begin playing message now. Houston, we're going to try and translate that up here. Hold for translation. Translation complete. We'll begin playing message now.
Hey, it's me, Melissa.
What do you do when the aliens invade? Take a shot of MK Ultra and watch Melissa Jade. Put on your tinfoil hat and tune right in. We got that crime spree, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, a complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Aliens was on the sun or in Area 51. Time travels, unravels, haunted castles, cops are baffled, potential experimental thoughts that make you transcendental. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Crime sprees, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa.
Hello, everybody. Happy Members Only Monday. Welcome, Margie. Oh, no, I ain't interested in weed. Do you mean Wade, Margie? Unless you're not interested in THC either, but I don't think that's relative to what I'm discussing. But that's okay. It's not for everyone. The same way Tisha's not for everyone, Wade isn't for everyone. But we have a lot of actual stuff coming up on the docket. Sarah Boone, which now trial's not starting till next weekend. Leilani, her trial. Stefan Cerns, and Koberger, but that's not actually very soon. But you know what I mean. We got a lot coming up. We have Harlot people, Natasha, hippie chick, Julie, Honey, Fergus and Shiggles, Little White Crow. It is Monday, right? Don't mess with me like that. It is Monday. It's Members on Monday, I think. Pretty sure, right? And I apologize for being late. We were over on Patreon. We ran late. That is my fault. Well, we didn't. I ran late. And so I apologize. I didn't mean to leave you guys hanging. Hi, Chloe Moon. Hi, CS Meg. Thank you so much, Meg. Meg just busted 5 people out for Members Only Monday. Please make sure you thank Meg if you just got one of those memberships. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, of course, you cutie pie. Donna Adelson lost all her lawyers. Judge kicked them all off the case. Conflict of interest. That's interesting. Wow. You know what, Tobeans? Shay is very much following the Corey Richards, and I know she wanted to do coverage on it. I gotta stop saying so much. Crap, now I went to not say it, and then I paused. Petition for stuff. Thank you, Chelsea, for 2 months. How can I not? All right, hold on. Rolling into Members Only Monday.
Any objection? All objections.
For the interviews, because I don't have any fancy clothes.
You go to my closet, you take whatever you need. Okay, Brennan, you guys got to look sharp. It's the most important day of our lives, okay?
Okay, Dad.
What's your name? What's your age? Where you from? What's your sign? Who you love? What's your style? What you do? What you drive? Stop, drop, and roll. Do that. Do it like a pro. Do that. Stop, drop, and roll. Do that. Do it like a pro. Do that. Hit top, rollie, boy, we know you phony. Take her to the mall and buy her what she wanted. Already smashed, so I'ma let the homie. RP my cash and RP a Kobe. If you're born in September, then you know you're my type. If I see you on Tinder, then I gotta swipe right. If you're born in October, then you're just like me. Here's a resume, can you fill this out, please? What's your name? What's your age? Where you from? What's your sign? Who you love? What's your style? What you do? What you drive? Stop, drop, and roll. Do that. Do it like a pro. Do that. Stop, drop, and roll. Do that. Do it like a pro. Do that. Boy, you know you phony.
All right, perfect. So thank you so much, Chelsea, for 2 months of an amazing support, and Musicity Mom for 16 months. Thank you so much. You guys are absolutely awesome. I had someone, actually, this reminds me, I think it was my last members only Monday. I had someone leave a comment, and yeah, this is me addressing one of the bullshit comments I got. They left a comment. You could go find it. Not saying to leave any comments underneath it, but I'm just saying it's there. Who literally said, well, since all you care about is your members, and since, you don't care about your normal subscribers, I'm unsubscribing. I was in shock because that just tells me you've never spent more than a fucking minute on my channel and you just happen to scroll in on like a members only Monday. First off, one, we specifically say we don't discriminate whether you are blue, green, gray here. Right. Two, I do members only live streams every Monday, once a week, right? Three, I leave it open to the public because not everybody is able to afford a membership. Maybe you don't want a membership, right? But I still wasn't Georgia. No, it wasn't Alexander. But, for whatever reason or not, I leave it open so everybody can at least view it. But the perk for being the member is you get to engage in the chat and comment and stuff like that. But I don't know if it was because I thank you guys for your support and being members. I don't know how that became synonymous with I don't care about my subscribers. I care about everybody. But yes, when you are a member, it's no secret that you're paying for a membership or you're gifted a membership, right? Either way, that's financial support. That is money. So taking a moment, right? Taking once a week to specifically thank you guys for that because it keeps my channel afloat. It helps me. That shouldn't be an issue, okay? It shouldn't be. It doesn't mean I don't care if you're not a member. It doesn't mean I don't care about non-members of this channel, but I think it's okay to thank people when they're giving their hard-earned dollars, right? Their hard-earned money to support my channel. And so people just never cease to fucking blow me away. They never do because I always say hello to everybody who's watching and not a member, right? I make sure to show my appreciation for everyone, but it just shows that you cannot please everyone. You just can't. People are going to bitch no matter what. So yeah, it was not fucking what's her name this time, at least that I know of. Yeah, I even let people, I have the free membership on Patreon and I open a lot of the Patreon stuff up for free too, just because not everybody can afford it, but yes, for the people who do, you have to have some perks. I hate people who have memberships and give zero perks. You're paying just to be green. We do 4 members live streams per month. because that's what you deserve. But it's like a middle ground for people who can't afford it. At least you could view it, right? You could still watch the content. But it's annoying. Thank you, poor Linda, for 7 months. It's almost time for turkey legs. I hope you got one this year. I'm Jay, so happy I found you in your community. We appreciate you, poor Linda. Thank you so much. And thank you, Meg. Only discrimination here is about Bad Ranch. Just saying. Yes. Thank you. It's just, I love new people, of course, but at the same time, it brings in a lot of people who don't know history, don't know context, kind of just jump on for 1 second and then they feel like they know you. I guess I'm more mind blown that people always feel the need to let their thoughts be known. If you don't like whatever, just go, right? But there are so many people, and you guys know because I said it last week. Oh, your intro is too long. It's 2 minutes long, and I'm watching on replay, and I'm not capable of just fast forwarding through it. I'm going to leave you this comment to let you know how upset I am about your fucking intro that was handmade for your channel, and it's unique. I'm so upset that I need to tell you I'm not coming back. Or just go, like it's simple as that. Just go. We have a fucking awesome community here. You're fucking blessed to be a part of it. If you're a fool who doesn't see that, then it's your own loss, but peace out, I don't care. So yeah, either way, what a way to start, the Monday. But I just want to let you guys know, subscribers, members, whatever, I appreciate every single one of you. But yes, thank you. I look forward to Members Only Monday. I appreciate every single person who is a member, whether you bought it yourself or you were gifted. It really means a lot to me. And so I like to say thank you and show my appreciation to you guys. I think so too. Okay. So, dude, always. And we know that when there's someone in the chat who may start off like kind of going back and forth with me, but ends up sticking around, those are the ones I love the most. And I have a lot of respect for that. But it's just the people who, they're just dicks like for no reason. I don't get that. Right, exactly, Grace on Wheels. But okay, so we haven't done Tisha since like last Wednesday, okay? It's been a minute. So we are here tonight. We had left off, if anybody forgot, where we left off was the witness that we had on the stand. It was very long, but he went through all of the data from the cell phones and where their GPS was, pinging, whether it was Tisha's or Gannon's, at the different times with the days leading up to Gannon's murder. And so Gannon's birthday was a few days ago. He would be 16 years old. 16 years old. Hi, Kitty. I know. How crazy is that, Road? How crazy is that? Yeah, here for the ticking Tisha time bomb. Hi, Elvin. No, we're waiting for it. And I hope like I don't happen to accidentally jump past it or something when I'm jumping through like kind of the dead air. Whoops. I yeeted myself. I'm really hoping I don't accidentally jump through Cook doing the hand sanitizer or the 2 lawyers 1 cup. Hi, Kathy, because we're waiting for it. We're waiting for it. It is Deadeye Danny. It is. Oh, I love that music. And who would have thought I would have butchered your name from day one, right? But here we are. You'll forever be Musicity Mom. Hey, MK. We've missed you. All right, so we are finished with that witness, and now we're about to have a lovely lady up for our next witness. I'm excited. Let me pull it up. Here we go. Pull this back. Pull this. Jump a smidge forward for her. Oh, you know what? Hold on 1 second. Before I even do that, let me show you guys. our missing child for tonight's live stream. What did I? Oh, okay. I'll do it here. Our missing child is Letecia Stauch. She has been missing since September 18, 2024 out of Kansas City, Kansas. She is 15 years old, so if you or anyone you know has information on her whereabouts, please contact the Kansas City Police Department at 1-913-596-3000. Okay. And see, again, and I know I keep explaining it, but I apologize for not, once I start the video, I can't highlight your comments or anything like that, because I will literally have to keep doing like this. I'd have to keep flipping back and forth, and it's going to drive you guys crazy. Please do not think I'm just not caring enough to not highlight comments. I hate it, and I'm trying to figure out that audio issue still. So if you or anyone you know has any idea how I could fix it, please reach out, because I need help ASAP. Hi, Emily. All right, guys. So here, yes, I love Candace Owen. I love her, Riley. I do. And you know what? I can't even say who I like, or else it's gonna cause an uproar. But all right. So here we go with our next witness. Tisha has now pulled her hair up. She's gonna whip it back and forth, Jada Pinkett Smith style. Hi, Keith. And here we go, guys.
You don't need it up here, right?
No, Leticia's
Dr. Moore, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, ma'am.
Leticia's too tired for this.
Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
Curls. So she has her hair pulled up in that big fat fucking bun, but she has 2 waist length pieces of curls, ramen noodle style, squiggling down to her belly button. Oh, we've missed you, Werner. We fucking missed you. Hey, Homer.
I think this is
Mr. Young, on the matter that we talked about earlier, qualify the witness first, and then I'll give the instructions.
Natasha.
Sounds good, John. Good morning.
I couldn't miss.
Could you
your
please introduce
vibe.
yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the record?
Sure. I am Dr. Christine Moore,
We
M-O-H-R.
have a fucking we have a real live doctor, ladies and gentlemen. Unlike Tisha, look at the way Tisha looks at her, because when she says doctor, it's a real doctor, unlike Dr. fucking Stauch over here. Hi, Lori.
And what is your occupation?
Currently, I am a clinical program director for Larned State Hospital's Sexually Violent Offender Treatment Program.
And how did you get the title doctor?
I received my doctorate in clinical psychology in 2014, completed over 2,000 hours of clinical training for towards my licensure, and then applied for my licensure, took my licensure exam, and have been a licensed clinical psychologist since 2016.
And what kind of roles have you had, jobs have you had as a clinical psychologist?
Typically, I've worked in psychiatric hospitals, jails, prisons. I've been a forensic psychologist, so conducting sexual and violent risk evaluations, sexual predator evaluations, parole evaluations, assisted with civil commitments for individuals who are mentally ill. So worked in a variety of settings.
And in those variety of settings, have you both treated patients and also done forensic examinations of patients?
Yes.
Could you distinguish those two for the jury? What are we talking about when we say clinical examination?
So a clinical examination is typically something, an evaluation where you're looking to provide a diagnosis or understanding of what could be concerning about that person, what sort of mental illness might they meet criteria for. Whereas a forensic setting, you're typically looking, again, maybe assessing for risk, again, any sort of violence risk, sexual risk. You assess for faking mental illness, so feigning illnesses, also forensic wise.
This is very interesting because this is exactly what Letecia does. Faking illnesses and shit like that. And you know what? We're seeing this a lot in other scenarios, or even seeing it with our Wade coverage. There's a bunch of fucking liars, but how does it fall down into the mental illness aspect?
In some of my prior roles, I've conducted pre-sentence evaluations, lack of mental state or insanity evaluations, competency evaluations, pre-sentence evaluations. So again, you're kind of looking to assess somebody's, you're either wanting to diagnose and help develop a treatment plan, or ultimately look and assess somebody's risk in more of a legal setting.
And so approximately how many clinical examinations have you conducted as a psychologist?
Hundreds. I'd say probably close to 400 at least.
And how about forensic examinations as a forensic psychologist?
About the same. It's been kind of my roles have switched back and forth. So in those roles, I've conducted hundreds of evaluations.
And are you licensed to practice psychology in any states?
Unlike
I am licensed to practice here in Colorado as well as in Kansas.
And what does it mean to be licensed to practice psychology? Let's talk about the state of Colorado.
Sure. So
I feel like Young is nonchalantly throwing shade at Tisha because she literally refers to herself as a doctor. And I'm living for this right now.
So it means that you've met the required qualifications to, as required for the Colorado Licensure Board, and here it's called DORA, the Department of Regulatory Agencies. So I've met all of those qualifications based on my education, experience, and training, as well as past what we call the EPPP. It's the psychologist examination, and you have to score above a 70% on that exam in order to become fully licensed. And once you've met all of that criteria, then they will authorize you to be licensed and to practice as a psychologist in the state.
None of which Dr. Stauch did. Just saying.
Does each state have its own requirements to have a license in psychology?
Yes.
And are you licensed in other states?
Kansas.
And is that where you currently work?
Yes.
Are you, do you have any training, or do you have what we call as lawyers CLEs? Do you have annual training that you have to go to keep your license?
Yes, so I have to do that both for for Kansas and Colorado, between 40 and 50 hours of continuing education, and specifically in ethics, also about diagnosing, ensuring that you are familiar with the DSM-5 and making sure that you are able to accurately diagnose, and then things specific to your field. So especially when I've worked mostly in forensic related settings, I also tend to prefer to obtain additional CEUs in those sort of settings. So being trained and qualified to perform the risk assessments, personality assessments, malingering assessments, intellectual disability assessments, things like that. So I also focus my CEUs in those areas.
And you mentioned the DSM-5. What is the DSM-5?
That is a diagnostic and statistical manual. So it's in the mental health field. We typically use that as a guide to help with diagnoses. So it has the criteria of what each diagnosis is required that you have to meet. It also provides kind of some associated symptoms related to different diagnoses, just to help the clinician really ensure that that's the person that they're assessing is meeting that criteria.
And is that used throughout the country?
Yes.
Do you stay up on recent literature and things that are going on in the field of psychology and the fields of forensic psychology?
Yes.
And what do you do to do that?
Mostly that's CEUs, but again, just going out, ensuring that I am trained and seek out the trainings that do allow me to do my job. So, for example, like a sexual risk assessment, you have to be qualified and trained to conduct that sort of assessment. So I'll go out and get additional CEUs in those areas just to make sure I am trained and qualified to do what I do.
Okay. And have you given presentations or have you taught classes with regards to psychology and forensic psychology?
Yes, a couple years.
You guys want me to kind of just jump through her credentials? I think she's shown enough, unlike Tisha, that she is qualified.
Years ago, symptoms, I was how to conduct
Presentations, are they to other psychologists?
But typically other psychologists as well and other experts in the field.
And have you received any honors or awards in forensic psychology? Times?
That I wasn't called. We have to commit.
Now, at this time, I'd ask that Dr. Moore be qualified as an expert in the fields of general psychology and forensic psychology, and ask that she be allowed to give opinions in those fields.
Yes.
Defense.
Can we approach?
Oh, okay. Well, Cook doesn't like that. Your Honor, may we fucking approach? You sure as fuck can, but it ain't gonna go your way.
You may.
Okay, so let's cut to that one here. The tattoos percent.
With that, we're about to hear goes to the issue of insanity and insanity alone. With that, prosecution.
Thanks, Jim.
That was our statement.
Dr. Moore, could you give the jury a little bit more specifics of what your role is now and what you're doing in your job afterwards?
Sure. So as the clinical program director of the sexual predator treatment program, we have over 250 civilly committed sexually violent predators. So in the state of Kansas, when somebody is deemed a sexually violent predator, prior to their release from prison, they go for 2 evaluations, a clinical service evaluation, and then a sexual predator evaluation. And then they're civilly committed to the program. So
look at Tisha. Look, pay attention, bottom right. Look at her smirking and shaking her head no, okay?
And then they're civilly committed to the program. So we are required by law to provide them care and treatment related to their sexual offending behaviors. So I oversee all of the clinical aspects of that. I supervise numerous master's level psychologists and master's level social workers. They're the ones that are typically providing treatment. I also chair what we call the progress review panel, so help evaluate if people are progressing in treatment or need to be returned to more intense levels of treatment. I supervise the forensic evaluator, so that person's role is to conduct initial evaluations to clarify diagnoses, and they also do annual evaluations that are required by law for the court to determine if that person still meets civil commitment criteria as a sexually violent predator.
What were you doing back in March of 2020?
I was the mental health director at the El Paso County Jail.
Okay, interesting. She was there at the jail. All right. So if you're going to try to be going for the NGRI defense, right, not guilty by reason of insanity, you better fucking hope you have corroborating evidence.
In that role, I supervised the master's level therapist there, the discharge planner, oversaw all of the psychiatric care. So supervised a psychiatrist, the psychiatric nurse practitioner, the psych nurse, just again, ensuring that care was adequately provided to approximately 1,500 inmates at any given time in the jail setting.
And before we get into the details with regards to this case, we talked about a clinical diagnosis or your role as a clinical psychologist versus your role as a forensic psychologist. Can you explain the difference between the two? And let's start with what a clinical psychologist might do and how you treat a patient who may come see you.
Sure. So in a clinical psychologist role, somebody is typically coming in due to some, either whether it's them self-reporting some mental health concerns. It could be something like anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, things like that. And what we do is we start by conducting an initial evaluation and diagnostic clarification to make sure that we do have an accurate diagnosis. And then from there, we develop a treatment plan in order to help stabilize them, whether that would include individual therapy, group therapy. We might refer them to a psychiatrist for medication management as well, and then typically try to work with a team in the sense of whether nursing staff are involved. Like I said, the mental health staff, psychiatry, just trying to have a pretty collaborative approach to somebody's needed treatment.
And in a clinical setting, are you relying much like a medical doctor may do on what the patient's telling you, at least at the beginning, to see how that mental illness may be treated?
Yes. So typically we will ask them kind of a broad series of questions to cover any potential diagnoses. So kind of casting a wide net to see what concerns that they have. And then if it's pretty clear what their diagnosis is, we'll kind of hone into that area. So maybe they report, for example, that they're depressed and they meet criteria for a major depressive disorder. And we'll go in and develop a treatment plan specific to that. If we are not sure, or they might have symptom overlap, which tends to be common. We don't all fit into nice boxes. So sometimes there might be prominent depression with maybe some anxiety on the side. So we'll, if we need to clarify, we might do some testing in order to make sure that we know that we have the accurate diagnosis.
And this diagnosis that you're making, you alluded to, if it fits the criteria or words to that effect. What do you refer to see what the criteria is for any given specific mental illness?
The DSM-5.
And within the DSM-5, is that where the criteria might be listed for whatever?
Thank you, Little Red. Little Red just gifted memberships. Christy Casper, Hey Jude, Nana Sue, Janice Wolf, and Martha just got one. Thank you so much. Welcome to our new members. Please show Little Red some love and appreciation if you just got one of those.
Mental illness.
Hi, my fellow Melissa.
Yes.
And do you use that in a clinical setting
Hi,
to make a diagnosis as to whether or not someone actually has a mental illness?
Yes.
Now, before we talk about the forensic psychologist evaluation, is there any cautionary statement in the DSM-5 and the use of that manual with regards to forensic evaluations?
Welcome, Jade.
Yes, you always want to make sure, especially in a forensic setting, to be very cautious, because in forensic settings, just by the nature of them, there could be some ulterior motive or gain. So you want to be extra sure and clear, make sure you are clarifying that is in fact the correct diagnosis that you are going to then provide treatment for or write in an evaluation report that goes to the court per se.
And is that statement in the DSM-5, or do you know why it's in there with regards to forensic interviews?
Just because of the nature of them and because people do.
Oh, thanks, Hey Jude, and I love your name because I love the song, but happy that you popped out and you're talking with us.
Can have a tendency to maybe elaborate or exaggerate maybe fake symptoms of a mental health diagnosis, so that way.
Ooh, sorry to pause again. Thank you, my fellow Melissa, for 9 months. We have our baby. Woo-wee, 9 amazing months and counting. Thank you so much. And I do agree with you. This is by far one one of the most twisted cases I've ever looked into. And a lot of people may not agree with that if they hadn't gone deep into understanding, like, it's not just the crime, even though the crime itself is horrific. It's the behavior before and after that makes she's one of the most evil fucking people I've ever studied. Seriously. And I mean that with all honesty.
Way that they are deemed they're not taking full responsibility. They're kind of blaming it on maybe a mental health diagnosis as opposed to their true own behavior.
Well, I understand you correctly, is the clinical setting,
Cherokee.
they may not have as much to gain or lose by what they're telling you versus a forensic setting. They might be motivated to tell you something because they have something to gain.
Agreed,
Is that a
Ara.
fair statement?
Yes.
And is that why, for instance, in a forensic setting, would you rely on everything a prospective patient might tell you, or would you want to look at collateral information to see whether or not that makes sense?
It is very pertinent to look at the collateral information. So yeah, you would take that person's self-report. If you could talk to any family members, if you could obtain prior records to, again, confirm. You also
look at Tortellini literally going through the DSM-5 as she's explaining this, and he's like, let me see there. Let me try to fact check that. He has the literal DSM-5, my dear Lord. Hi, Shelly Beans. I don't know who the Chiefs or the Royals are, but go teams, whichever one you want.
Do
great
assessments that have the
thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Validity scales in them. So most, let's say, personality assessments, they have embedded in them certain questions that will detect if someone is feigning or faking symptoms or over exaggerating under.
And that is 100% Letecia, fanning and faking symptoms.
Reporting symptoms. So we do that. And then there's also a specific set of tests that are specific for, again, malingering or faking symptoms. So I've been trained in those.
Also like Gypsy Rose.
Those assessments as well. And again, we'll typically use those to just confirm or refute a diagnosis.
Okay. I want to go back to March of 2020 in your role at the El Paso County Jail.
Go Yankees.
As part of that role, were you one of the individuals who might screen inmates as they come in of serious criminal charges?
Yes.
For instance,
so essentially, if you're not following, and I know it's a lot of intro, but that's because she's an expert. She saw Tisha when she was first arrested, and she's going to be giving her diagnosis and experience and opinion on whether or not she is insane or was insane at the time that the crime was committed or directly after when she was arrested. Oh, yay, Jenny. It is. It's fascinating and horrifying at the same time. You're correct. 100%.
Since inmates who are charged with first-degree murder, is there a process that they go through when they come through the jail?
The process is typically consistent for almost anyone coming in the jail. The first thing that we do is a receiving screening that the nursing staff will do. And so they kind of go through, get all of the baseline or historical medical concerns, kind of do a brief suicide assessment, initiate any mental health or psychiatric referrals. And then if it's
good night, Julie,
maybe somebody who's a little bit more concerning, they will be referred for a mental health assessment, typically within 24 hours. At the latest, it would be at 7 days. So everybody would come in, have the receiving screening, and an initial mental health assessment.
And why do you do this mental health screen with inmates, particularly inmates that are charged with first-degree murder?
To ensure that whatever anybody is coming into the jail for, that we can adequately care for and manage any symptoms. in a higher profile case, given my higher level of licensure compared to most of my team that worked there, they were mostly master's level clinicians. I typically would try to meet with those individuals that have higher profile crimes, just because I have a pretty extensive history working in that forensic setting and providing diagnoses. So that's why I would typically go see somebody, and specific for higher profile crimes, because of the nature of them, we always want to ensure somebody's safety. So typically people who come in, again, with higher level crimes, I'll, as a safety precaution, put them on suicide watch initially, just to ensure that, given the nature of the crime, sometimes in and of itself going to jail is traumatic. It's kind of a scary place. And so I just want to ensure that that person is safe. I mean, ultimately in the jail setting, safety is the key. So we will also do a pretty thorough suicide risk assessment with them.
Do you also do an assessment to make sure they're not a harm to anyone else at the jail?
Yes.
We're going to talk about this case and this defendant. Did you have an opportunity to do an assessment of a Letecia Stauch on March 5th of 2020?
I did.
And is it the same Letecia Stauch that's seated to my left, seated in between the two male attorneys?
The big Lego in the fucking corner between the two fucking attorneys who are going to share one cup. Two lawyers, one cup. Here we go, guys. That was a lot of intro, but now we are going to get her exact experience with Tisha.
The table here?
Yes.
May the record reflect identification of Ms. Stauch.
Record will still reflect. Go ahead.
Earlier, you alluded to that high-profile cases, first-degree murder charges, you might take a role. Is that how you got involved in this case?
Yes.
So tell us about that. What was why did you meet with Letecia Stauch on March 5th, 2020?
I met with her to conduct her mental health initial assessment. Again, assess for suicidality, homicidality, again, initial diagnostic assessment, see what referrals might be needed, specific to her given the nature of the alleged crime. Also, just checking in as a stepmother, making sure that she's safe, she's okay, and see how she was adjusting. To my knowledge, she does not have a criminal history. So again, like I said earlier, going to the
she does. A lot of it took place when she was a fucking minor. But yeah, there was a period of time with being married to Al. I don't think she got in trouble, but she does have a history.
Jail for the first time, it can be somewhat traumatic. It can be scary. People don't really know what to expect. It's a totally different environment. So again, just making sure that my intent was to assess her to ensure her safety and stability while under our care.
Angela.
And what was her demeanor like when you first met her?
She was, from my recollection, generally very calm, polite.
Polite? Ma'am, what? Hold on. Hold up. Those are not two words I would ever describe Letecia as, but all that tells me is that, similar to Al when he first met Letecia, right? These people are very good at making themselves appear a certain way initially, and then over time their true colors come out, especially right after she was arrested and charged. I'm sure she was putting on an amazing front.
She reported kind of some general symptoms, but we had a very lucid, fluid conversation.
Exactly, Natasha.
Where there weren't any significant concerns raised. I do recall she was not really in agreement with being on suicide watch, but again, just due to the nature of her alleged crime, as well as being somebody in jail for the first time, I had placed her on suicide watch just as a safety precaution.
And have you done that with many inmates who are charged with first-degree murder, just as a precaution?
Mm-hmm.
As you're talking to her for the first time, Did you notice any obvious signs of any mental illness that she may have had at that point?
She not anything overt. Again, just being in jail, I think everyone can be a little bit anxious or nervous. I do recall her reporting a history of a generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis. So that seemed fairly consistent. Her self-reported that seemed consistent with how she was presenting.
And as part of your role at the jail there is to prescribe medication that the inmate might need if they do have a mental illness?
My role is not to prescribe. I'm not licensed to prescribe medication, but what I do is put a referral in for somebody to see the psychiatrist. If somebody comes in with prescribed medications that we can verify, then the nursing staff can call the doctor and get those medications started, or the doctor can meet with them and start the medication themselves.
And do you know whether or not that was done with regards to Ms. Stauch?
Yes, our psychiatrist, Dr. Hargraves, had also met with her, I recall, I believe on March 5th as well, and prescribed her, I believe it was hydroxyzine, which is an anti-anxiety medication. It's a very kind of generic low medication. It's not something like an antipsychotic, which has helped to kind of prevent some symptoms. It just kind of helps calm down your anxiety a little bit.
And I still want to stay on the March 5th, 2020, your first meeting with Ms. Stauch. Are you also, is this a kind of a clinical evaluation at this point? Are you also evaluating if there's anything or some mental illness that she might need that you can either refer out or facilitate at that moment?
Yes.
And as part of that evaluation, do you ask her if she has any mental illnesses?
Yes.
And how did she respond to that?
She had reported having the prior diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder.
What? That's it? You're telling me when Letecia first came in and spoke to you, she never mentioned that she was insane? She never mentioned having dissociative identity disorder. She never mentioned any of that, bipolar, any of the fucking mental illnesses she literally went all through. What? No way. I totally fucking believed her.
As you already alluded to. Did she mention any other potential disorders that she might have?
Not that I recall.
Did you see any signs of any mental illness other than what she was telling you about the generalized anxiety?
No.
And when I talk about signs, what does that mean to you?
Signs or symptoms, typically when people have a mental illness, they will have, you can kind of see it. So let's say, for example, somebody could be responding to internal stimuli, and that might be consistent with more of a psychotic disorder. None of that was observed. So sometimes they might be looking around at the room or talking to themselves under their breath. They might seem very sullen or depressed or uncontrollable crying. They might be having more.
That bitch ain't crazy. She's evil. Exactly. I love that.
Of a manic sort of mood episode. So they might be talking very rapidly. So just a lot of behavioral observations. So speech, affect, body presentation, things like that. Why we just look at all of that in order to determine a sign or symptom.
And why is the term psychosis kind of what you're describing, where they're looking around and acting like someone's there who's not there, or hearing voices that you can't hear?
No, Homer. Also, she did not mention being fucking shot, nor did she have any fucking injuries, which included a fucking bullet hole. But none of that matters, Homer, because this is Tisha.
Hear that kind of thing?
Yes.
Why are you looking for that, or why is that relevant in your evaluation, and particularly with Ms. Stauch when you first met her on March 5th?
That's going to play in how we're going to treat her. So somebody who might be psychotic, so to speak, we might need to
Night creative
again
minds.
just to put them in a potentially restrictive housing. If their behavior is very erratic, we might need to bump up a psychiatric referral, monitor medication compliance if they're prescribed medication, just to ensure that stability. So looking for that, it's just important to see how we will manage them in a jail setting, what sort of unit or housing location is best for them. And again, just to see how often we might need to follow up with them.
Okay. Is psychosis, where you're hearing things or seeing things that aren't there, is that tied to a severe mental illness? Did you see that in someone?
Yes.
And is that one of the things you might be looking for when you meet anybody in your
Hey, Artemis.
initial diagnosis, or someone who's entered at the jail for first-degree murder? See that, you may have to go to a plan B, C, or D.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you didn't see any of that with Ms. Stauch when you first met her?
I did not.
Did you ask Ms. Stauch about whether or not she had any outpatient treatment for any mental illnesses?
I did ask her that.
And how did she respond to that?
She denied any prior hospitalizations or treatment.
Oh, what is that? She denied any prior hospitalizations or treatment. Is that because back when she was first arrested, she was like, I'm not fucking crazy. You're not going to fucking turn around and try to claim I'm fucking crazy. I have no issues. And then it was only as time went on that she realized, oh, shit. It would actually work in my own fucking benefit if I did play it off like I was crazy, because that's the only way I'm going to get off on this murder. Right.
So does that include any inpatient or outpatient treatment?
Yes.
I know it's pretty obvious, but what's the difference between the two?
So outpatient treatment.
Yes, Chelsea.
You might go to therapy. You might drive yourself to therapy once a week. And inpatient is where you're living there. It could be something as short as 72 hours to
Artemis.
years. So again, a higher level intensive treatment is inpatient treatment with 24-hour around-the-clock care. And outpatient is you're able to fairly well manage your own symptoms, but might need a little bit of assistance. So you see a therapist.
Okay. Now, if she would have said that, hey, I had inpatient treatment before I was hospitalized for whatever mental disorder, would you have taken additional steps to see what you needed to do within the jail to help her?
Yes.
You sure as fuck would. You sure as fuck would if she happened to mention, yo, I've been in the psych ward, which no shade to anyone who has been, but she's never fucking mentioned it, right? Because unfortunately, she's now adding a stigma as if there wasn't already enough stigma surrounding mental illness. And people are going to equate it to doing something as horrific as Letecia has done, which no, they are not one and the same. You have done damage to people every day who have to live with these illnesses, and continue to add fuel for people who fear that if you struggle with a mental illness like dissociative identity disorder, that you may be dangerous, right? Hollywood's done the same with movies like Sybil and Split. You're no more likely to commit a crime, let alone a violent crime, if you struggle with a mental illness like that, as you would if you don't.
In this case?
Correct.
As you're talking to Ms. Stauch, and we're going to get into several days where you met with her, how are you documenting your meetings?
I always, when I would go to the
yes,
unit,
and Joker, Little Red, yeah.
I would take a pen and paper with me, a little notepad, and I would write down my notes. I would quote things that people said, write down my behavioral observations of that person, and then I would go back to our office area where there was a computer and document that in our electronic medical record system.
And would you document things so that others can see those, particularly in the jail? If, for instance, you mentioned the psychiatrist wanted to come see her, they could look at your notes and get a historical documented path of what has been going on, Ms. Stauch?
Yes.
And does that go for all the way to today? You know that she has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Can other doctors look at your notes?
Exactly, Grace. And thank you for feeling comfortable enough to share that. But exactly. And what this is doing just adds to that stigma. This idea that, oh my God, if you struggle with that type of mental illness, you might be dangerous enough to do something as hard. No, a piece of shit does that. It has nothing to do with that mental illness, nor does she even have that mental illness.
And use that in determining whether or not Ms. Stauch is sane or insane.
Yes.
Did you also note whether or not any psychotropic medication?
Bree thought her bun was a whole ass person. Bree thought her Tisha's bun was a whole ass person moving their head behind her. No, that's just Tisha. That's just her fucking hair.
Was needed for Miss Stauch.
I noted that again. My understanding was her primary care doctor had prescribed her hydroxyzine to help with some anxiety, and I believe lorazepam to help with the same. Sometimes that's a little bit more of a medication that it's a bit quicker acting.
And did you note that in your notes then?
Yes.
All right. Now, with regards to the prior diagnosis, did Ms. Stauch tell you when she was diagnosed with this generalized anxiety?
Right, Kimberly?
I believe it was about 2 to 3 years prior to coming into the jail.
Now, just remember this, because when we finally get to the defense and their witnesses, plural, there's 2. Remember, I kept saying the first, yes, defense had 2 witnesses, but the first one I would barely call a witness. It was just someone who was from the doctor's office that can confirm that Letecia did come into a primary visit and mention having anxiety and got a referral once. And then we have Dr. Dorothy Lewis. That is what she is referring to right here, that a couple of years ago got diagnosed with anxiety. So just keep that in mind when we do get to that first defense witness and only witness aside from Dr. Dorothy Lewis. This is what it's in reference to. Thank you so freaking much, Lisa. Lisa gifted memberships. Tara Boom, Missouri Mama, Mary Miller, Dawn, and Pour Me Another got those memberships. Please show your appreciation on Lisa. That's so kind and generous. Thank you. Welcome. Yeah, Cerebellum. Yep. I know I'm biased, Angela, but I think it's the best damn chat. And it's a traveling chat. Most of the people travel to like the few channels within the community, and I feel very blessed.
If your notes indicate that it was at age 16, would that be accurate?
Age 16?
If my notes indicate that, then yes.
If I can approach, Your Honor. I don't have a bait page on these notes, but it's from March 5th. Which one? I may approach, Your Honor.
You may.
And I'll just direct you to this sentence here.
Yes.
Now, are these your March 5th, 2020 notes?
Yes.
Has that refreshed your recollection as to when she said she was diagnosed with generalized anxiety?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that you're in the chat now, Chelsea. Yay, Pour Me Another. Welcome. And I like your avatar, Dexter.
How old was she?
16.
Did she happen to tell you who diagnosed her?
No.
Nope.
Did you talk to her about any past suicide attempts?
Thank you, lovely LaQuinn. Congrats, Fishing Gal. You just got that membership. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
How did she respond to that?
I believe that she said that she had not attempted suicide before.
No, she hadn't attempted suicide, but you want to know what she did? She faked suicide attempts for sympathy to her own daughter, who testified to that already.
Again, I have the privilege of looking at your notes. If you have your notes with you, you can use those, okay? If it helps refresh your recollection. Just let us know when you're doing that. That's okay?
Okay.
Mr. Young.
Hi,
find a
Dion.
reasonable breaking point in the next 5 minutes or so, please.
We can stop now if you like, Judge, if it's convenient for you.
All right, we're gonna have to jump to the next day, which means nope. I'm sorry, not a breaking point. It's not the next day. It's the afternoon. Breaking point. They had lunch. Tisha cracking up. All right, here we go.
Started this afternoon. I wanted to go back through something that I should have done this morning. It was not clear from the record whether I did. We checked the record, and what happened was that the prosecution offered Dr. Moore as an expert in the field of general psychology and forensic psychology. And then we had a discussion here at the bench, and I read you an instruction. I did not specifically state that she is qualified to render opinions in those expert fields. She is qualified to render those opinions in those expert fields.
Yes, she
I should have said
fucking
that
is.
explicitly before I gave the instruction. My error.
That's okay, Daddy Warner. Listen, we forgive you. You're fucking fabulous. No damage done.
And my oversight. So with that, prosecution.
Thanks, Sharon.
Chapo Werner. You
Good afternoon,
dapper
Dr. Moore.
gentleman.
Before the lunch recess, we were talking about your meeting with Ms. Stauch on March 5th, 2020. Do you recall that?
Yes, Homer.
I want to go back to that meeting. Do you remember about how long you met with her that day?
I do not recall exactly the time.
Was it an hour? 2
Thanks,
hours? I don't know.
Ellen.
Most likely it would have been about 30 or 45 minutes.
Okay. During this conversation, did you talk to her about any concerns that she might have with her ability to cope with being incarcerated at the jail?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, Bella. Bella gifted 5 minutes. You guys, thank you, Bella. Dusty Bell, Sam Brook, Insa Justice, Britt Morris, Shell's Journey. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please show Bella some appreciation. That is so kind. Thank you so much, Bella.
How did she respond to that?
I believe that she was a bit tearful, but generally okay.
And we talked a little bit about her demeanor this morning, but during your entire time with her on March 5th,
Right,
did her
Natasha,
demeanor seem to stay
damn.
the same?
Yes.
Did she mention to you whether or not she did this crime when you asked her that?
I'm going to refer to my notes very quickly, but
Yeah, did she do the crime?
from what I remember, she said, first, I did not do this.
I'm sure she fucking did.
And did she elaborate on that?
Of course not.
I believe she did. Let me just double check. She said, I feel like an animal in a cage and I am innocent.
Okay.
And she also said, I don't belong in a place like this.
Did she go on to tell you about her anxiety and her symptoms due to her anxiety?
Chelsea, can we still get gifted memberships if you already actively have a membership, whether it's gifted or bought? No, you can't get gifted, but if there's like a day that you're lapsed and you're not green, you can get gifted. So it only will roll out to people who are gray. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, she described having some bad chest pains and inability to breathe and panic attacks. She reported panicking and thinking about people dying and other random
You're welcome,
thoughts.
Chelsea.
Did she talk to you about whether or not she was able to manage her anxiety in her everyday life?
She did.
What did she say?
She reported that she typically stays busy and works out and eats healthy food, more
Thank you,
fruit
Bella.
as opposed to carbohydrates, just to stay healthy.
Did you hear that? I'm sorry. I know I've been pausing and talking a lot, but she just said that Tisha told her that she opts to eat fruit over carbo fucking hydrates just to stay healthy. Bitch, what? You work out and you opt to eat fruit? What? I didn't realize shebangs and fucking prison style burritos to the point that you're kicked off your fucking dietary restrictions fell under that same category. I must have been mistaken.
He's busy and works out
Hey, Jennifer
and
K.
eats healthy food, more fruit as opposed to carbohydrates, just to stay healthy and
Sure.
manage her.
I can ensure. I see what you did there. You're so punny. I can ensure you otherwise.
Her anxiety that way.
Did you ask her about her educational background?
Yes.
What did she say about her educational background?
She had a master's degree in education with a specialty in special education and had a PhD in education from Liberty University.
And did the conversation you were having with her on March 5th, did that give you an indication that she was educated and she was able to respond to your questions appropriately and have a normal conversation?
Yes. You get a word from our sponsor, but you see, I just want to, this is why I don't highlight the comments and chat. So you see, I have to exit out, flip over here. I just want you guys to see, because I feel horrible not doing it, but this is what I would have to do every time if I wanted to play a clip. But let's hear a word from our sponsor. Shall we?
You were big. I'm serious. I'm serious. You look big.
I only weighed 140 something.
But you look humongous.
You look
humongous. But anyway, darling, I know it's time for us to go. I love you later. I love you.
So yeah, you can knock that the fuck off, Tisha Leanne.
Yes.
Did you ask her any questions about her family and social support?
Yes.
What did she say about that?
She talked about her daughter and her aunt as her primary social supports.
And her aunt, oh, is that Aunt Brenda? Is that her aunt is your support system? Is that who we just heard a word from? I believe so. Would Aunt Brenda agree? Would Aunt Brenda agree, Miss Ma'am, that you only eat fruit and you work out?
No.
Yes.
No, sir. No.
No. So you can knock that the fuck off, Talento Tisha.
Note that she had not talked to her husband in a bit of time as well.
Did she tell you why she hadn't talked to her husband?
She said that he believed that she was guilty.
Mm-hmm. You are guilty.
And did that create anxiety for her, or did she tell you?
I don't believe she told me that. And I don't know that it did.
Okay. And did she tell you how long she was married?
6 years.
Did she tell you how her marriage was going prior to her incarceration?
I believe that when she was talking to me, she said that they were having some issues. I believe she didn't want to just kind of be a stay-at-home mom and stepmom. I think she wanted to more so use her education, and reported some emotional abuse in that relationship.
But you weren't that's the thing. You just said you were working, right? You weren't a stay-at-home mom. You weren't a stay-at-home mom. So make it make fucking sense. She just didn't want any responsibility of taking care of Gannon or Lena. She didn't even want the responsibility of taking care of her fucking self.
Did she talk to you about an incident that occurred as she's being transported to Colorado Springs from South Carolina.
Yes.
What did she tell you about?
She reported that while she was on her way here, she was sleep deprived due to being in the car for about 19 hours. And she said, I didn't know I was sleepwalking and hadn't been eating. I thought someone was coming for me, so I took the monster can and threw it.
Oh, she's talking about the Hulk smash. She got a degree online. But no, she didn't have a doctorate. But what's it called? She literally is saying she Hulk smashed that lady because she was sleepwalking. I'm pretty sure we all saw the video, and it was absolutely a conscious decision Letecia made as she slipped out of her cuffs underneath that jacket, eyeballed her fucking trivia partner, and picked up a full monster can and smashed it to then only say, she's threatening me. She keeps threatening me. Okay?
And did you have any independent information with regards to that incident?
Yes.
What independent information did you have?
During her transport, the information that was shared with me was that she was trying to harm herself with her handcuffs.
Okay. And who?
She was the independent information. Seriously, that Tisha was trying to harm herself with those handcuffs. She was not. If you need me to pull up the fucking clip, I will. This is all lies.
Who shared that information with you?
One of our inmate classification specialists, Deanna Bowman.
And is that because you're trying to figure out if she might be a harm to herself or others? Are you getting information from as much people as you can?
Yes.
Did you talk to her about any history of victimization?
Yes.
How did she respond to that?
She had reported some physical and emotional abuse within dating relationships. Again, the emotional abuse within her marriage.
What abuse?
Did she tell you whether or not she was ever told if she was a good stepmom or not?
She reported that she was told that she was never a good stepmom.
And did she tell you who told her that?
Her husband.
Oh, yeah. Grow up.
What else did she tell you about her home life with regards to being a victimized or being a victim?
She was told to just provide love and attention to the children because her husband made a lot of money.
The audacity.
And again, she said she did not want to just throw away her doctorate.
Okay. And do you have your notes up there in front of you?
Yes.
Obviously, this has been over 3 years ago. Is that helping you refresh exactly what she told you and what you put in your notes shortly after this conversation?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask her about her strengths or perhaps her weaknesses?
Yes.
And what did she say about her strengths?
She reported being smart, helping others, and being good at sports.
Right.
Did she talk about any concussions that she may have had?
Yes.
What did she say about the concussions?
She received a couple concussions while playing softball.
No, she did
Did
not.
she say whether or not these were serious concussions or minor concussions?
They were minor. Typically, if there's a concussion, we'll ask if there's any sort of history of traumatic brain injury, and none was reported. I asked her if there was any change in behavior or functioning afterward, and she said no.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you might see if someone you're evaluating may have a brain injury?
They could recall forgetting certain words. They might have some lapses in memory, have difficulty completing everyday tasks. So they might not be able to just function as easily. It might take more effort.
Would that be something that would be apparent to you as an expert in psychology? If someone did have a brain injury, for instance, myself, if we're talking, would you notice some kind of signs, perhaps slowness in speech, that kind of thing?
Typically a slurred or slowness in speech, typically getting mad at yourself when you can't recall information, that you want to. It's kind of that tip of the tongue phenomenon where the words are right there, but you can't get it out. Those are some things that you would
Stacey.
see.
And did you examine her head or look for any injuries to her head?
Typically, when I'm meeting with somebody, I'll look over their entire body, but there was no observable injuries that I noted.
Okay. Did you ask her about any attempts to harm herself in the past?
Yes.
What did she say about that?
I cannot recall off the top of my head. I believe that she initially denied that in this encounter.
Do you remember telling you something about trying to harm herself with handcuffs as she's being transported?
It's a little leading.
I don't believe she would have been the one that said that. I think that was reported that she was trying to do that, but she did not report that to me.
Okay. And that's my fault. It says per inmate classification.
Yes.
So you're getting that from another deputy?
Yes.
All right. I apologize for that. Did you observe her wrist and see any injuries to her wrist?
I do not recall.
If your notes say that there were no observable markings, would that be accurate?
Yes.
See, because I've had people ask before, because sometimes they'll remove the notes and then have to go back up and give the notes. We saw that with Harley's friend who testified. Do you need to refer to your statement, read over the statement, quiet, like to yourself, and then hand it back? That's because you cannot testify with notes. You cannot, so she can't be up, even though they're her own notes, she can't read and testify directly from the notes. You can refer to your notes and refresh your memory by reading it. But in reality, you're not allowed to read from it verbatim because it should be recalling it from your own memory, just for anybody who doesn't know.
With regards on March 5th, 2020, I don't have page numbers for your notes, so I apologize, but it says 2:51 p.m.
What time?
It's 2:51 p.m. It says patient answered and had linear train of thought.
Randa.
What do you mean when you say
Yes,
that?
Victoria, yes.
A linear train of thought is when somebody's speaking and there's not any gaps in their speech. It was just very kind of straight along a consistent path. So there wasn't any oddities that I noted in her speech or thought.
Okay. And in that same note, you indicate she did not appear to be responding to internal stimuli. No auditory or visual hallucinations were observed.
Correct.
Do you recall making that note?
Yes.
You're allowed to refer to it, cerebellum. The prosecution or defense can read from it and ask questions based off of it, but you're supposed to be answering from your own memory and only referencing it.
And why do you make that note on March 5th, 2020?
Again, when looking at an overall clinical evaluation, you are going to assess for everything, anxiety, depression, psychotic thought processes. So typically the most common observable signs in a psychotic disorder would be responding to internal stimuli. So there might be a voice in someone's head talking. They might be, again, looking around the room, talking to somebody who is not in the same room. And so I will note that if I do not observe any of those concerns.
Do you also ask her questions like, does she understand what she's being charged with, where she's at, that type of thing?
Yes, so we'll go over, we call it orientation or a brief mental status exam. And so we'll look at somebody's orientation to person, meaning themselves, place, so where they're currently at, time, if they, in general, they know the current date, month, year. So we will assess for for all of that orientation. And then again, kind of why somebody was here. So I would always ask somebody, do you know why you're in the jail? And they would respond.
And how did she respond to those questions?
She was oriented to person, place, time, and situation, and there was no concerns noted with her mental status at that time.
Did you note that she was aware of her charges, where she was and who she was? She was oriented to time.
Yes.
And again, why do you make that note in this particular record?
In general, it's just to ensure that somebody is oriented, because if somebody's not, that could be due to a variety of psychiatric illnesses. So we note that to, again, just state somebody's doing fine. There's no concerns noted at that time.
Now, after your March 5th, 2020 interview evaluation with the defendant, what was the game plan? What were you going to do next with her? Did you set up other times to meet with her, or just explain that to the jury?
So typically as I had mentioned earlier, we had placed her on suicide watch just due to the nature of her crime being a first incarceration. So when somebody's on suicide watch, we see them every day until they come off of suicide watch, and we place them on what's called transition status. So that means that they still have some limited property. There's specialized housing for that. And then we'll do a 24-hour follow-up after somebody comes off suicide watch, a 5-day and a 7-day follow-up. So about kind of a 2-week time frame we'll follow up. So that was the initial plan, to maintain her on suicide watch at that moment, as well as refer her to the psychiatrist for medications. As she had mentioned, she had been taking medication prior to coming to the jail. And then I also placed her on special needs monitoring. And what that is a recurring 30-day follow-up with somebody while they're in custody. And again, I did that just due to the high profile nature. I wanted to make sure that we were providing her adequate follow-up on a relatively frequent basis.
And do you know whether or not the jail would monitor her, especially in the beginning, March 5th, 2020, every few minutes to make sure she's doing okay?
They do. When people are in restrictive housing or in the medical ward, and initially she was placed in the medical ward due to the high profile status, some concerns for her safety. So anybody in restrictive housing is assessed by the deputies on the ward every 15 minutes.
And so if something unusual happened during this 15-minute watch period, would you learn about it and do some follow-up with it?
Yes.
Did anything unusual happen in the beginning of Ms. Stauch's incarceration at the jail?
Not specifically that day, but there was, within the month of March, there was a couple times that I had been asked to do some follow-up meetings with her.
And we'll get to those once we get to your notes. I do kind of want to jump ahead a little bit. At some point, did you learn that Ms. Stauch was raising competency issues in court?
Yes, I believe that was around the beginning of June.
June 5th, 2020? Sometime after that period, did Ms. Stauch raise a concern that she might have multiple personalities?
Yes.
I know that's not the term that we use in the DSM-5, but on your March 5th, 2020 evaluation, did you see any signs of dissociative identity disorder?
Nope.
No.
And what might you expect to see if she did have that disorder on March 5th, 2020?
I would expect to see somebody that was losing gaps of time. Somebody who would be reporting some concerns like, I don't remember certain historical information, so significant life events like a marriage or a death. Somebody would also be losing gaps of everyday events. So somebody with that disorder might go, let's say, shopping, and they would come back, and if they came back to their main personality at that time or personality state, they would have no idea why they bought things. They typically forget things like how to do their job, use a computer, how to drive. So I would expect somebody in a jail setting to be reporting loss of time and not being able to recall what occurred during those periods of time.
And did you see anything of that, like that, or of that nature on March 5th, 2020?
No.
Did she ever change her voice patterns?
No.
Ever talk in a Hispanic voice?
No.
Ever change her name?
No.
Did you see any signs whatsoever that she wasn't the same person you were talking to at any point during that interview?
No.
At any point with your contact with her, did you see any of that?
No.
We're going to come back and talk about that as we progress through your contacts with her, okay?
Yes.
I next want to jump to March 9th, 2020. Did you have some contact with Ms. Stauch then?
Yes.
And I wish there was a way to tell you what page number we're on, but there just isn't. This is March 9th at 2:16 p.m.
Okay, I don't want any, like everyone could have their own opinions. Just be respectful, obviously. But I feel like with Harley specifically, we've all had our own journey with an evolution of opinion regarding Harley. So I understand that not everybody is going to be at the same place, and I respect that. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinions. Two things can be true at the same time. And I've vocalized this to you guys before. I have a lot of issue with things I've heard Harley say on the recorded calls. A lot of people question how did Harley not know these things? How could she have looked away? And she could be a victim of her mom, right? And when I say a victim, I am not categorizing her on the same level of Gannon, of course, but victims of different circumstances. And we have to understand that Harley was a product of who raised her. And so it took me stepping out of it, and I've said it before, don't look at Harley at 17 when the crime was committed. Go back to when she was 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and realize that Letecia was the sole person raising her. Of course, you're going to become desensitized to things. This is how Letecia acted all the time. And so I'm sure it became a defense mechanism to overlook things because it was normal for Letecia to be acting this way. That doesn't excuse attitude and behavior and being shitty to Aunt Brenda. Of course not. But Letecia encouraged it, and that doesn't take accountability away versus, hey, a lot of teenagers at that age struggle with similar things and their parents aren't Letecia. And so at the end of the day, everyone could have their own opinion. Just be respectful about it. That's all.
Do you remember talking to her about...
And thank you, Shauna, for 10 months. Love the channel and the community. Thank you so much.
Her mental condition on that day?
I do. Just give me a moment to get there.
Y'all are nuts.
Okay, I'm there.
Welcome, Hood Mary Poppins. Thank you so much for becoming a member.
And so what did she have to say about how she was doing mentally on March 9th, 2020?
She was a bit irritable due to still remaining on suicide precautions.
Did she, during your entire contacts with Ms. Stauch, did she tend to ramble a little bit and talk?
Yes, sometimes she would just say things that I didn't ask about. And again,
What? No way.
In a
Not
jail
Letecia.
setting, it's as a therapists and psychologists want to provide a lot of care, but also want to limit what is asked about based on not trying to become involved in her charges. So sometimes we'll ask about things, but again, trying to limit what is specifically asked. But there were times that she would kind of blurt out information that was more case related.
And did she do that on March 9th, 2020?
Right, Emily.
It might be easier if I just show you the note I'm looking at, if I can approach.
Oh, I'm sorry, Head Mary Poppins, but we're happy that you renewed and we're happy to have you here and we love your name. Gangsta Poppins.
Yes.
Okay. So
Can I, since there's no
Yeah,
page
absolutely.
numbers,
Yeah.
can I look so I know what you're reading from?
Got it?
I don't.
Yeah. So on March 9th, what did she tell you about whether or not she had control of her brain? Do you see that in your notes anywhere?
Yes, she said, I have control of my brain,
I have
and she
control
wanted
of
to
my
be an
brain.
advocate for herself.
Her words, not ours. I have control over my brain and I'd like to be an advocate for myself. My goodness. And you sure did, Tisha. You advocated for yourself splendidly.
And where did that come from? Did you ask that question or is she just volunteering that to you?
Just volunteered it.
Okay. And you see in your notes a little lower there where it says,
Right,
she
Jenny?
said, mentally, I'm fine.
Yes, she said, mentally, I'm fine. I'm not guilty. The truth will come out.
And so where did that
It sure as fuck did.
come from? Were you asking about the case or is she just volunteering information?
Just volunteering information.
Did you actually tell her
Yep,
about her
RL.
charges and whether or not she should talk about them?
I did encourage her not to talk about her charges with anybody at the jail, whether that be deputies, other inmates, mental health staff,
She can't help
and
herself.
instead that she should just be talking to her attorneys about her charges.
And just for the jury's benefit, normally these notes would never become part of the case unless mental illness becomes an issue in the case and mainly an insanity plea or something like that. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
So normally your notes would not come to the prosecution. You would not be testifying in a murder trial unless there's some relevancy to it. Is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Correct.
And you probably never testified in front of a jury before, right?
A couple times, but
Okay.
not very often.
Aw, bless
These guys
your
are nice
heart.
guys. Look at them. Good group that is over there, isn't it? All right. So what did you do when she told you all this? Did anything change with her situation or how often you would meet with her?
I discontinued what we call a red sheet and began a yellow sheet. So a red sheet is, they're both forms of suicide watch, but a red sheet, they just have limited property. So not even a book or a cup in their cell. They'll be able to be given water, but they can't use those things because they could hurt themselves or cover up windows with them. So a yellow sheet, they just get a little bit more freedom. So book, cup.
Or break out of said windows like Tisha had literally planned to do that.
Potentially a pencil, things like that they can have.
And I guess, I think I understand what you're saying. If he's progressing, if there's such a term as normally through the jail setting,
Yes.
now that she's been there a few days. And
Yes.
so you're lowering the level of suicide watch, for lack of a better term?
Yes.
Okay. And is that based on what she's telling you?
Partially that, as well as not evidencing any self-harm or suicidal ideation. So she's not saying, I want to hurt myself or kill myself. She's not reporting hopelessness. So generally just seems to be a bit safe.
So up until now, is she progressing just like, again, I don't know if normal is the right word to use, but a normal person who's been charged with first-degree murder, you get booked into the jail, the suicide watch is going to be high. until there's a reason to lower it. Is that fair?
Yes.
Is that what's going on with Ms. Stauch at this time?
Yes.
Okay. I want to jump to March 12th now.
Hey, Becky P.
And let me just ask you if you remember her telling you anything about having a photographic memory.
She did.
What was that all about? Do you remember?
Tisha has a Tisha claimed, and this is after this bitch was arrested and charged. She has a photographic memory. Right. Sure, Jan.
Again, just something that she reported without asking about it. She said she has a photographical memory and is acutely aware of all of the things that she sees and hears.
Is that consistent so far of what she's been talking to you about up until this date?
Yes.
March 13th, you had another visit with her. Do you recall that one?
Yes.
And do you recall having a note about thought content with regards to Ms. Stauch on that date?
Yes, Chelsea.
You see that one?
Thought content was appropriate, no significant mental health symptoms noted. She did not appear anxious at this time. She denied suicidal and homicidal
Great
ideation,
question, Amy.
and no psychotic functioning was noted.
So up until this point,
Yes,
we have
Lee.
no psychotic or psychosis visible to you. Really no mental illness
Yep,
other than
Linda.
her general anxiety that she's talked to you about?
Correct.
And certainly no dissociated identity disorder up to this
Volty.
point?
Object to leading.
Sustained. You can rephrase.
Did you see any signs of mental illness up until this point?
No.
If you would you have noted that?
Yes.
And would you begin treatment for that mental illness?
Yes.
Sure would.
So March 15th, you have another visit with her. Actually, that's
And for context, she was arrested March 2nd, okay? And so now this is right before Gannon's body would be recovered.
Nicole Reed. Do you know who Nicole Reed is?
She was one of our nurses. She did.
All right, listen. You guys are adults, and I've gotten to the point where I'm not gonna try to control you all. Like it's you're a fucking adult. But let's not, you could all share your opinions respectfully, but let's just, if we're not talking about Harley, let's just move on.
History and physical assessments. So typically about 2 weeks after people are booked into the jail, they will have another medical assessment just to make sure still
Thank you,
everything's
Angela.
okay. There's no other
And I'm just saying
medical
in
or
general.
mental health concerns noted.
Because I don't want you guys to end up having it back and forth. And it's not even the topic, you know what I mean?
And so would you rely on her notes that she puts into the system in your evaluation of Ms. Stauch?
Yes.
What does she say happens on March 15th regarding a chronic mental health problem with Ms. Stauch?
I will have to refresh my memory on that.
And if you don't have those notes, I can approach with them. It's March 15th at 8:52 a.m.
Sure. She said regarding a chronic mental health problem, patient has a history of mental health concerns. However, when asking patient today, she denies any mental health issues or concerns at this time.
And is that consistent with what you have seen up until this point?
Yes.
Hey, Tiffany.
Now I want to jump to March 16th, where you actually meet with Ms. Stauch again. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Tell us about what you found with regards to what her mental condition was on that day.
I noted that everything was appropriate. So her mood was appropriate. Her thought was coherent. She had no suicidal, homicidal ideations, no
Yes,
auditory
please.
or visual hallucinations. She was oriented to person, place, time, and situation, had an intact memory, fair judgment, good insight.
Any evidence of mental illness up until this point?
No.
Let's jump to March 20th of 2020. Do you recall seeing her on that day?
Yes.
And I see a note on that day at 6:27 p.m. It says reason for referral, subject findings. Do you see that?
Yes.
Tell us about that. Why did you put that note in there, and what is that note about?
So the deputies had asked me to follow up with her because that was the day that we were informed that Gannon's body was found in Florida. And so they wanted me to check in with her because that is a significant event. And
Do you think she cared for anything other than herself?
Anybody's life. And so they wanted me to check in and follow up with her.
Were you, as far as you know, the first person to tell her that Gannon's body was discovered?
I believe so.
And how did she respond when you told her?
She was a bit tearful, a little bit overwhelmed at that time.
Yeah, because she was caught.
What did she say?
She had noted that she did not have anyone to talk to in the jail. She had wanted to call her mother. She was talking also about losing some time out of her cell previously. That
really?
week. So she essentially was asking to call her mom.
Call her mom that she
Did you tell her that you were
right?
there for her if she wanted to talk and provide mental health
Look
counseling?
at her. Look at her laughing and shaking her head. Bitch, it's documented in the notes, you dimwit.
So
Go ahead.
Again, in this situation, given the charges that she was booked into the jail for, I didn't want to talk to her about the charges, but her being a stepmother and losing a child, I wanted to assess her for grief and see if she was okay.
She didn't lose him. She took him.
In that situation. So I did try to explain to her, I don't want to talk about
No, she doesn't.
the charges related to that. Just make sure you're okay, as a grieving stepmom.
Did you tell her where Gannon's body was found?
No.
If you can refer to your note, did she tell you where Gannon's body was
Yes,
found?
Amy.
She said that she was never in Florida and said that that's where his body was found.
Oh my God. She said I was never in Florida and that's where his body was found when she is fucking being documented. Hotel footage, hotel payments. I fucking hate her.
So I'm sorry, but just so I'm clear, did you tell her that Gannon's body was found? Did she respond, Gannon's body was found in Florida?
Yes.
Or how did that go?
So I would have.
So she tells you Gannon's body is found, and you say, I've never been to Florida. Miss Ma'am, did she tell you his body was found in Florida?
Gone up to her and just let her know that his body, that obviously that he had passed because previous to that he was alleged to be missing. So now that he was confirmed to have not been alive, I don't believe that I said that he was in Florida.
Wow.
And did she tell you whether or not she had even ever been to Florida?
Yes, she said that she was never in Florida.
Wow.
Did her demeanor change during this conversation?
She was speaking a bit softer than my prior contacts with her.
Would this be evidence of a mental illness, or would this be evidence of a normal reaction of what you just told me?
It would be more evident of a normal but kind of limited reaction to hearing that information.
Okay. Did you have further conversations with her about her emotional status after you told her about Gannon's death?
I believe that I reviewed kind of some of the generic stages of grief and loss, what emotions might come up from being informed of the loss of a child and that she could reach out if she had any further concerns about it.
And again, up until this point, any evidence whatsoever that she had dissociative identity disorder?
No.
I want to jump ahead to April 20th. Did you meet with her on April 20th?
Yes.
And tell us about that. Was this, how often are you meeting her at this point and why?
So at this point in time, and I apologize, I forgot to mention earlier, also when people are in restrictive housing or segregated housing, we do weekly follow-ups as well. So every week that they're in restrictive housing, we do a weekly follow-up. So that was the intent of this contact.
Okay. Tell us about that contact. You have that there?
Yes. Looks like she, again, had a normal reported mental status. Everything was reality-based. She was engaging and cooperative. I did have to speak with her through the door because there was only one deputy on the ward at that time. She reported having some body jerks and that she had been hitting her foot at night and elbow on the wall. She had reported some nightmares, reported having some bruising on her ankles, and then unpromptedly talked about the transport back to Colorado again.
And is this the one you talked about earlier?
Yes.
What did she say this time happened on her way back from South Carolina to Colorado Springs?
She attributed to her behavior to a lack of sleep. She also she said that being in the medical ward was not healthy for her due to poor sleep. She then said she talked about the female deputy was holding her gun in the wrong place. She told the deputy that a few times and she threw the monster can at her as she believed she was being attacked.
Did she say why she brings this up to you or what prompted this discussion?
I believe it was prompted due to her initially saying that the transport related behavior was due to poor sleep and we were talking about sleep at that time.
Did that incident impact her status in the jail? In other words, her security status based on what happened on the transport back from South Carolina?
Yes.
Did she seem to want to, well, was she trying to lessen that restricted status based on that?
Yes. Again, being in the medical ward is not, it can get a bit loud there. So most people don't want to stay down there and the lights do have to stay on all night. And so it is consistent with somebody having some poor sleep because our circadian rhythms or sleep-wake cycles, we tend to prefer to sleep when it's dark and stay awake when it's light. So,
and that's actually a really interesting nugget to remember because she was not sleeping. There was no REM sleep and it really fucks up your cycle.
She wanted to be moved out of the medical ward. And she had also mentioned that she felt she was continuing to be kept in the medical ward because that we'll think that she's crazy and make her take medication.
Was she taking any medication other than what she had for the general anxiety?
No.
Did she ask you to do something about getting her out of the medical ward?
I believe so. I think she had wanted me to talk to the deputies about it.
Do you have any control over that?
I don't. In the jail, we do weekly meetings to assess everybody in restrictive housing. So, and again, anybody who might be more high profile. So we do talk about those individuals every week. But due to the safety and potential concerns for escape and her safety and things like that, it was determined for her to remain in restrictive housing and in the medical ward. Again, safety and security will trump most things in the jail setting. So although I might make an opinion, I'm not ultimately the one that gets to make that final say.
Okay. Did this continue on up until the point she was transferred out of the medical ward?
Yes.
Was it pretty consistent on April 28th? Did she bring it up again and complain about the light being on, that type of thing?
Yes.
I want to jump ahead to May 12th now. And this is a note that you have with regards to May 12th at 5:46 p.m.
Yeah, she's REM sleeping now in the middle of her trial.
It's just below the one that says report evidence of suicidal thoughts where you say no.
Yes.
Was there a point in time where she said, I can't talk to you anymore?
Yes.
What was that about?
I believe that her attorneys had recommended that she not speak to the mental health staff in the jail. She specifically said to me, I still can't talk to you because you can be subpoenaed.
And what happened to your treatment of the defendant after she said she didn't want to talk to you?
Typically, we're going to respect their wishes. We're going to always offer. So anytime we have a scheduled contact, we will still offer to talk to her. And if she wants to decline, or any patient or inmate in the jail wants to decline, they absolutely have that right, and we'll respect that.
And did she tell you who was telling her not to talk to you?
I don't know that she said it specifically, but it was my understanding that it was due to her contacts with her attorney.
Okay. Now I want to jump forward to June 5th of 2020. Earlier, we talked about whether or not at some point she was raising her competency report. Is that when this occurs, on June 5th, 2020?
Yes.
And did you have contact with her on June 5th, 2020?
Yes.
What was the reason for that contact, and tell the jury about it?
So that contact was the mental health special needs progress notes. So as I had told you, we have them scheduled every 30 days for that routine follow-up. So that was the reason that I had went to talk to her that day. I talked to her for about 30 minutes. That day, she said that she had been unintentionally hitting her head.
Huh? What? You've been unintentionally hitting your head? Are we supposed to believe you just fucking walk up to the wall and involuntary responses happen where you're fucking just smashing your fucking cranium against the wall, Tisha? I can understand people who are like, hey, I'm having involuntary muscle twitches, but fucking smashing your head against the wall, that's a bit much, Tisha.
But denied any suicidal ideation at that time. She said she tried to walk through the door because she thought she was at home. She reported seeing pictures of her daughter and thinking about and missing her dogs. She said that her contact with Harley had decreased a little bit, and she was upset about not being able to be there for her daughter. She said that being in the jail and
welcome, Angie. Thanks for becoming a member.
Experiencing loss was just exacerbating her traumatic stress.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Does she go into details about this traumatic stress that she's talking about?
Yes.
What did she say?
She reported being molested at age 14, the loss of her husband.
Wow.
The loss of her son, loss of her licensure, loss of freedom, and loss of another family member.
Now, is this the first time during your entire contact with her at the jail that she brings up about being molested?
Yes.
How did that come about? When she talks about traumatic stress, is this a question that you're asking her, or is this something that she, again, is just rambling about and telling you things?
That's what she had reported to me, yes.
So that wasn't in response to any questions from you? That was just something she felt you needed to know?
Yes. I typically, when I go up to talk to somebody, I say, hi, Mr. or Miss So-and-so, how are you today? And then sometimes they just report a lot. And then I'll go into the other questions related to my notes after that.
And so at this point, June 5th, 2020, was she still in the medical ward?
I believe so.
If your notes indicate that she requested to go back to the medical ward.
Oh.
Thank you, Sydney. Congratulations, Janine. You just got a membership. Thank you so much, lady.
Sorry, yes.
Would that refresh your recollection?
Lena.
She would have been in Alpha 2, which is our female restrictive housing ward.
Okay. Is that like a general population or what is that?
No, it's segregated housing. So typically, we'll have people that have severe and persistent mental illness that are self-harming in that ward, people that are trying to hurt other people in that ward, and then other people who are in there for disciplinary segregation reasons. So there are individuals who really can't come out with other people, and they typically come out individually 1 hour at a time.
And so back in the earlier dates, April, May, she wanted to get out of the medical ward.
Yes.
She's out now. And then on June 5th, the same day she raises competency, she wants to go back to the medical ward.
Yes.
And what happened as a result of her request?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I don't know if we moved her back or not.
Do you remember her talking to you about her going to the state hospital or Colorado Mental Health Institute of Pueblo for the competency evaluation?
Not, well, during this contact, we talked about her going for a competency evaluation, but she had not yet gone, to my knowledge.
Did she have any anxiety with regards to going to the Colorado Mental Health Institute?
I think she had general anxieties. I don't know if it was specific about going there for the evaluation, but she wasn't, I know she did say she was asking if she should start taking medications now or wait till she goes to the state hospital to get.
So should I start taking medications I don't need now for show or later? Thanks, Cutie Pie. Congratulations, Chris, for grabbing that membership. That's so kind. You guys are so kind. Thank you so, so much.
Prescribed medication there.
Do you recall do you recall her talking to you about Gannon during this meeting?
She had reported that it was, I believe she had said something to the effect of it being kind of too hard to handle all the stressors at one time.
And did she get into the events surrounding Gannon's death during this June 5th, 2020 meeting?
Yes.
Did she talk about a hiking trip?
Yes.
What'd she say about a hiking trip?
She said she always used to take a handgun with her hiking, but did not that day. She said, I can't cope with it. It's one.
Do you take handguns when you go on a hike? Just curious.
Trauma situation, too many, and it was the wrong place at the wrong time. She said she replays that week of her life over and over. She also noted she replays why she did not ask for more help or provide more information to the police. And she's now trying to begin really processing it. Meaning the loss, meaning Gannon.
Okay.
She said, I need to be able to talk to someone more than a social worker. She said, I was creating stories that aren't true and don't remember conversations. She then said, I need more help. She also said, I can't leave January. And then she brought up Andrew Womack and his son dying in Colorado and coming back to life 8 hours later. She said, regarding Gannon, I know that's not physically possible, but I want to fix things. I pray his same prayers and wrote him a letter.
You right?
Then she said she regretted taking the back road off 25, that's Highway 25. She then said, I can't relive every situation, every day, and every hour.
Okay. Now, how did this come about? I mean, what did you say to spark her to talk about Ann's death?
We probably were talking just about the stress because, again, when I talked to somebody,
RL, when she was being interrogated right after she was charged and arrested, she claimed at the end to have a miscarriage, be suffering from a miscarriage. She was brought to the hospital and it was debunked.
and asked them how they're doing, they just kind of report this. And earlier in her verbalization, she was talking about traumatic stress. So I don't typically ask questions that would have prompted that answer. So that would have just been her volunteering that information.
Now, is this the first time in your contacts with her that she brings up things like traumatic stress and I guess stressors in her life?
Yes.
Anything about that conversation lead to you believe that she had a serious mental illness based on what she's telling you on June 5th?
No, instead I noted that she had reported trying to keep kind of a poker face. She was trying to deal with her problems, but also help some of the other females out. So she was giving them scriptures. I do believe at that time she was had either scriptures or a Bible or something that she was using to help cope with her stressors while in the jail as well.
And did she eventually get transported to the Colorado Mental Health Institute in Pueblo for that competency evaluation?
I believe that was in sometime in July, early August, she came back to the jail.
Now, did you meet with her again on July 14th, 2020?
Yes, I believe so. I just want to get there. Yep. Yes.
Do you recall her talking to you about her diet needs and whether or not the jail was providing appropriate diet for her?
Yes. Prior to this interaction, she had reported, I think pretty soon after she came into the jail, she had been reporting losing weight, had reported.
Do we need a word from our sponsor again? You did not lose weight.
Some things like having a celiac diet, which I believe in the notes, we did some testing and she did not have a confirmatory lab results that supported that. But I do believe that we were trying to accommodate some diet preferences that she had. She reported specifically on July 14th that she was going to be, so she said, I'm going to be so rich after this. And she had referred to a civil suit for not having her medical needs taken care of.
So not only did she fucking say that shit in all the text messages, social media posts, social media messenger, she also said it after she was fucking arrested to all of these people. What a fucking moron.
Now, is the jail food not too good there?
I don't believe it is. I have not eaten it myself, but
Things like that?
Yeah.
Is that common for inmates to want to get on a different diet, such as a kosher diet and things like that?
All the time.
Is that what's going on here? She's demanding better food, basically?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Well, what exactly did she tell you with regards to why she's going to get rich?
For having a civil suit, for not having her medical needs taken care of.
You also recall seeing her again on August 21st, 2020 at 3:52 p.m.
Yes.
And do you recall an incident where you either learned or saw that she was in her bed with a blanket over her head?
And I'm sorry, can you repeat that date?
Sure. It's August 21st, 2020 at 3:52 p.m.
Yes. I'm sorry. Okay, I found it.
Did you, it's hard to tell from your note. Did you see that or did someone tell you she was on her bed with a blanket over her head?
So what I wrote is that MHD, meaning mental health director, so that's how I referred to myself, attempted to see a patient for weekly RH rounds, which is restrictive housing rounds, at approximately 14-20 hours. Patient had a blanket on her head and was sitting on her bunk. She looked up and said, "I don't want to talk." And then myself and the ward deputy signed the refusal form indicating that she didn't want to talk that day.
And as part of your role as the mental health director, are you giving what are called kites from inmates, of people that you're seeing, inmates that you're treating?
So the kite system is a little bit more complicated, well, maybe more simplistic than that. There's a blue kiosk on every ward in the facility. Any inmate can type it. We call it a kite, but it's just a little email that gets sent to a generic box. So they can click options to talk to inmate class, security. They can talk to an inmate, sorry. Just to explain, inmate classification is the people who address their housing needs. So if they want housing considerations, they'll send a kite to inmate classification. They could send one to medical. They could send one to mental health, programs, religion. So there's a variety of kites that can be sent. And so she did have access to the kite system at any time that she was out of her cell and could use that.
If there was an unusual, again, lack for a better term, an unusual kite that Ms. Stauch filled out, would it get delivered to you so that you can address it?
Not specifically. It would be something that any of the mental health clinicians would be answering. We do typically try to answer them within a 24-hour time frame. So any clinician who saw it could have answered it.
Did you see a kite that was written by Ms. Stauch on, it looks like August 20th? It's just below the note that we just addressed?
Yes.
What was that kite about?
I don't know really how to describe what it was about. Would you mind if I read it?
Let's just.
Yeah, we went through all of those kites, didn't we? And they were bizarre.
What does it say? What did she write?
It says, "You let them duct tape me and cover the alarm sensors because they came for me in West Palm Beach, then came back and covered alarm with socks. I saw the car."
Let me jump back there. Listen to the kite she wrote.
"Tape me and cover the alarm sensors because they came for me in West Palm Beach, then came back and covered alarm with socks. I saw the car on Carriage Meadows, so we both left. Gun jammed, got shot. They thought I was crazy because I watched Good Girls, but he really had tattoos. You didn't help."
Good Girls, the movie.
And then she sent another kite that said, "Being held hostage with camera, people everywhere, and no one helps. And they took my water from my dog."
Not the water.
And what was the response to those kites? Do you recall?
They were answered simply with the words "kite received." That is what was sent back to her because there wasn't a specific request in there. And then Caitlin, who was the one who answered that kite, also noted, so this wouldn't have been sent back to her, but would have been in the note, is these kites from patient are not consistent with prior presentation or language.
And was it consistent with your prior contacts with Ms. Stauch up until this point?
That was not consistent.
And has she already returned now from the Colorado Mental Health Institute in Pueblo for her competency evaluation back in the jail?
Yes.
All right, guys, I think I'm going to pause it there because I just checked and she's on the stand for another hour. I won't be able to go for another hour because I have to get up in a few hours, but I'll pause it there. And then when we resume, we'll finish watching her testimony. And I know, I'm trying to remember, I know we have another doctor, Dr. Torres, who's going to come up. And I know we have the Google search guy. Hi, honey. I know we have the Google searches. And I keep looking at that board in the back because I know that that's where they show the Google searches. But all right, I'm going to pause there. Tomorrow. No, Wolfie, I'm on 2 devices. I have to be under 2 devices with these damn audio issues. So if you could help me figure it out, that'd be greatly appreciated because I have to use my phone and my Surface at the same time. Tomorrow we're doing the Wade wives drama and the exposing of Ari part 2. And so I'll keep you guys posted, and probably tomorrow, Tuesday, either Wednesday or Thursday, we'll continue with this. So thank you so much, every single one of you guys who are members. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for anybody who had gifted memberships or sent super chats. Your support is just so amazing, and it means the world. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your night. Keep an eye out in the morning for Allie for her coffee and crime. I know she didn't get to do it this morning, but she will be on tomorrow morning, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
The people are like really nice. Like everybody knows my name.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name.
Flying down the highway in a makeshift Model TA. Woo, yeah, woo. It's a beautiful morning and it's gonna be a beautiful day. The wheels are humming, the guitar strumming, and our radio is blasting and good sounds are coming as we're flying down the highway in a makeshift Model TA.
She keeps on.
Keep on dancing all through the night.
She keeps on.
Keep on doing it right.
She keeps on.
Keep on moving.
She keeps on.
Keep on moving.
She keeps on.
Dancing all through the night.
You can hear the music from 26 miles away. Smiling is happy, and happy is here to stay. Yeah.
Keeps on. Keeps on. Keeps on.
Keep on dancing all through the night.
Keeps on.
Keep on doing it right.
Keeps on.
Keep on moving.
Keeps on.
Keep on moving.
Keeps on.
Singing and dancing all through the night.
Keeps on.
Keep on dancing all through the night.
She keeps on talking to me.
Keep on